Good evening, afternoon, whenever you are watching this. This is, okay, so for folks who might be a little confused by logos and whatnot, and you may not have been watching us for very long, maybe you found us via Braves Country Radio. The short of this is the 11th season officially. That's why we're dropping it on August 23rd, 2024. August 23rd, 2014 was our very first Armchair Quarterback Radio show. That's why I did the logo. And I had a pause there, a little bit of a dead air. The reason being, I was looking, I thought I still had our intro song. I was going to play it. I can't find it. I probably deleted it out when we quit using it a while back. But you'll hear us play it from time to time during the football season. Now, what we're doing now, and I'm just saying hi, and I'm getting the hell off the screen. You ready? All right, here we go. So what we got here today is we're doing a mock draft for you fantasy football folks. I have got so this is a 10-team draft, and might scroll out just a little bit so you can see just a little more. But the short of it is the draft is starting in 45 seconds. It's a 10-team draft. In this draft, you have 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a quarterback, a tight end, 1 flex, a kicker, and a defense. So during the off season, this next year, I'm thinking about putting together some videos for folks who haven't played before to kind of give them some ideas of how you build your team, but I don't have time to do that today. I don't have time to do that now. I'm in the middle of the baseball season. Football's about to overlap. So, but I am planning on doing that and recording them and dropping them next fantasy season. And we're going to be doing this also with the, let me see if I can find that. There it is. That draft sound thing's terrible. I'm also doing this, going to be doing this for fantasy baseballs too. So one of the reasons why I came off the screen is I've got to look off to my right, and all you'd see is the side of my head, the entire damn thing. So there's no point in me being on the screen. Those of y'all listening on radio, on WQEE, and a couple other affiliates around the country have picked us up. Welcome in as well. You can watch, listen, all of our content on Braves Country Radio. Now, we've got a sister station that we're building some stuff off on Cover Country, but for argument's sake now, just find Braves Country Radio on YouTube, and you'll be able to find the rest. We're doing some stuff with football this season and whatnot that we're going to put on a different cast. So, in fact, right now, that one is going live, and it is we're doing a trial run of doing ball games on screens where people can follow them that might be betting on the today's. So this is being recorded on a Thursday afternoon before I have to do the ball game tonight, but it's the Cardinals-Brewers game. So I got the number 10 pick, and I'm waiting to see how it falls out right now. I'll be reading these off to you. After this, we're going to go over our future picks for college football, pro football, the future bets. We're also going to do some bets for this weekend. And remember, Saturday morning, only on Braves Country Radio YouTube. We have some radio stations that are picking us up, but if you want to find it consistently, Braves Country Radio on YouTube. We're going to be doing the show starting tomorrow. It'll be 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Saturday this season. All right. It is my turn, and this is what's available in a 10-man draft. I've got Jonathan Taylor. I've got A.J. Brown. I've got Puka Nacua. I've got Saquon Barkley. I'm going to go ahead and take Jonathan Taylor. I think that is a very good value pick right there with the number 10 pick. And, in years past, I would probably go wide receiver here. But just because of the value, and I think there's going to be some depth at receiver this year, I'm going to go ahead and get my second running back. I'm going to grab Saquon Barkley. So I've got Barkley and Taylor, and I am set at the running back position. And it's going to scroll up and scroll down. So I got back-to-back picks. It's a snake draft. So I've got the 10th pick and 11th pick, and then it will come back up, and I'll have the what it'll be. I got 20 picks away, so I'll have the 30th and 31st. So we have time to chat and get into some things. As far as this weekend, my favorite play, now we'll give you the locks on Saturday, but my favorite play, just looking at the glance of it, for college football this weekend, it's the under in the Florida State game. Florida State and Georgia Tech. 54.5 is what Hard Rock has it right now. And I do believe that you're really looking at probably, if you can get it to 56.5, which I think you have to pay the minus 135 juice, I would do that because it's one of the common numbers. Now, if you want to be a little more aggressive, it's either minus 105 or plus 105 on the 54.5. Go for it. I'm probably going to be, one of my favorite things to do is to hedge the bet, take Florida State on the money line, take the under at 10.5, the under at 56.5, which is as high as they'll let you go on Hard Rock, and it pays out to a plus 105. Florida State is a 10.5 point favorite. I don't like the spread. I think Florida State's going to win this game, but I think it's going to take them. It's going to be a hard-fought game. Georgia Tech is a better football team this year than last year, and they showed market improvement. They really gave Georgia a tough game at the end of the year, and I think this team is getting better. I just think Florida State will eventually wear them down. This is not the same high-flying Florida State team from last year. This is going to be a much more physical football team. Florida State, you're going to see them run the ball. They're going to pound it down their throat. They're building, for lack of a better term, they are building an SEC Big Ten type of team where they can run the ball. And they should be able to run the ball really well this year, assuming health. They have bolstered that offensive line. They've brought in some really good running backs, some off the NIL, not the NIL, the transfer portal, and some as recruits. But you've got guys like Cam Akers that everyone's really excited about, Roydell Williams. This is going to be a physical bunch, and they're going to try to limit DJU's exposure. DJU's got a strong arm. For those of y'all that don't remember him, he's got a really strong arm, but and pretty accurate. But he makes some questionable calls. Can Florida State's offense clean that up? That remains to be seen. Can their coaching staff clean that up? That remains to be seen. But the more you run on with this offensive line and a defense that still should be pretty good, even though it was gutted by the draft, they're going to try to limit those mistakes. All right, it's coming back up to me. Remember, I took my two running backs, Taylor and Barkley. And so it's coming back to me, and obviously I would be looking for a receiver. Some guys that are falling right now, Ayuk is still there, and he's got the big contract controversy. So I'm probably going to stay away from him if all possible. I'm going to go ahead and take Chris Olave, who is a solid wide receiver. He's very, very dependable. And while we're talking about that, let's not take Ayuk. Let's not go nuts. Let's go grab Deebo Samuel. We know he's not holding out. And if Ayuk gets traded or holds out, he's going to be the beneficiary on that San Francisco offense. A lot of folks are afraid to draft Ayuk. I still think he's going to be a fixture in somebody's lineup in the very near future, but he just may not play week one. See what if there's anything. There's the only news that I'm reading there on the screen if you're watching is that basically there's no news. So sometimes no news is good news, but there's no news for that. Other receivers I could have gone after there. DJ Moore is definitely a guy. I could have went Sam Laporta, the tight end for Detroit, but I like the idea of getting my receivers, my running backs now. And because I have that big gap, I can't play the game of, is this guy going to be there? Is this guy not going to be there? If it's in that range, and I like the guy, don't screw yourself. If you like a guy and you know you're not going to pick again for 20 picks, 18 picks, 12 picks, your double-digit picks, and he's in the ADP of the next 10 draft picks, there's not much of a chance he's gonna stay there. Now, in real drafts and live drafts, maybe it will fall, but I don't believe it's going to. So that's my idea on that. Right now, with scrolling by, I still got several picks to go. So let me take a look at the rest of the college football slate this week. It's a very, very small slate. We'll be doing much deeper dives on the lines this coming week, or this next coming week, next Football Friday, because you're going to have a full slate. Georgia, Florida, they're all going to be playing that first weekend, Labor Day weekend, as is the traditional one. I'm noticing on ESPN, if you're in an area that you can bet on that one, the over-under is 55.5. It's still 10.5 for the Florida State game. So, once again, I like the under in that. Georgia Tech's going to try to run the ball. Florida State's going to run the ball. It's going to slow down the ball game. It should be. I mean, honestly, I would have taken the under on 48, 49.5. I think this is going to be a very sloppy, ugly game. And you've got the idea, too, that it's in Dublin, Ireland, and there could be the rain involved. I looked at the forecast. It's not likely to downpour, but there is some in the area, so you never know. I'm 2 picks up here, so I'll wait till I get past that to get to the rest of the game picks here. But as it's coming up, my turn is next. So once again, for those listening on radio, Olave, Samuel, Taylor, and Barkley. This is also going out on Spotify, on Braves Country Radio, but the best place to find it is on YouTube, obviously. It drops faster. Okay, so it comes back to me. I need a flex. There's Diggs, there's Pickens, there's Malik Neighbors. I'm worried about Malik Neighbors being able to – you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and get my quarterback and Anthony Richardson. I think it's a good, solid pick there at quarterback. And then looking at the wide receivers that are still left, because I'm not in love with the running backs that are still there. You've got – oh, man. If I'm going to go right here, let me see, where are we at on tight ends? I don't love that there. Running backs. I'll go ahead and get another running back, but I'm going to go get Ramondre Stevenson. I just think I know his ceiling is lower, but I think his floor is higher. I'm not in on Alvin Kamara this year. I'm just not. He's older. I don't like getting older running backs. He was very below average at best. And the reason why he's going as high as he is, A, his name, B, they've got a new coordinator, and they think that's going to open up the offense. I've got to see it to believe it. So many other running backs that are on this board that I would more likely grab at this point. For those who can't see the screen, guys like David Montgomery. Even Mostert's going to have a strong role. Zamir White, he should have a solid season. The jury's out on Javonte Williams, but Brian Robinson's there. Tyjae Spears, Tony Pollard. Depends on who you like in that argument. So I just let someone else waste their draft capital on Alvin Kamara. I'm just not buying it. And there's going to be someone always drafts on what you used to be. I am more aggressive on predicting what you're going to be. Because I believe in more than anything else, and I have a different philosophy in fantasy baseball. But in fantasy football, the wear and tear on a guy's body, especially at the running back position, is key. I've always believed in fantasy baseball. Look at the back of a guy's baseball card. He's probably going to be about that year. And realize if he's got the one outlier of a season, you got to throw that one away and use the average of his career. Perfect example for you Braves fans is look at Orlando Arcia. He had a career year last year. If you drafted him off of those statistics, you were severely disappointed. And then some guys have trends. Guys like Matt Olson has a bad year, good year, bad year, good year. Next year, I'll be targeting Matt Olson. This year, it kicked me in the grapes because I held on to him in my dynasty team. All right, I still got a few more picks. Other games that are going to be on Saturday afternoon. Montana State, New Mexico. I don't have a great feel on this one. If I was going to go anywhere on this, it would be the over. It's 54.5. I think that's very gettable. SMU, Nevada. The over-under is 55.5. SMU is a 25-point favorite. SMU's offense looked pretty good down the stretch last year. And Hawaii, Delaware State. Hawaii's a 40-point favorite. 40. The over-under is 56.5. I like the over in the Hawaii game. The other thing that if you're wanting to maybe you pull a teaser out, tease the Hawaii game down and the Florida State game up, and take the over in Hawaii, take the under in Florida State, Georgia Tech. And those are my main big plays. We'll talk more about it on Saturday, 8:30 a.m. It's live to you country club members. If you're not a country club members, you can still watch it, but you're not going to get it live, and you can't ask advice because we're only going to be answering people who are in the stream, and that's the key. So it's $2.99 a freaking month, and we're literally talking about 10 cents a day in an economy that is just, I mean, that's absurd. We're even charging that low, but at some point we've got to make we got to make this make sense. Okay, the NFL. A lot of folks will scoff because NFL, why the hell am I worrying about the NFL? Well, there's a couple of reasons. What you really want to look at, I'm going to be targeting games where they're going to be benching their starters. If they're benching their starters, I'm hitting the under. I am 7-0 this preseason off of that. So we're back to my pick. Let me go back to that. Then we'll talk about the NFL. All right, so I still need a tight end, and as far as the best tight ends available, I think I can wait. So let me get some depth here. I got Pickens and Harris. Man, they're – you know what? Let's get some Rashee Rice. He is dropped because of a falsehood. I'm going to get Rashee Rice, and I'll go ahead and grab Zamir White. Why the hell not? So everyone is staying away from Rashee Rice, even though he was one of the top fantasy receivers in the last 8 weeks of the season last year because of his troubles with the law. And they haven't cleared it all out, and they don't know when he's going to get a suspension. The one thing is known is this: until he has an actual court date and actually goes to trial, which gets putting back. It keeps putting back. And it's starting to look like he's not going to get a trial until next maybe not the spring, but late winter, right? If that's the case, he is not going to be suspended for 2024 in any shape or form. If he is, I don't think it'll be more than about 2 games, maybe 3 or 4 at the very worst. But while he's healthy, look, if it's 2 games and it's in the middle of the season, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. You get a receiver who gets suspended for a couple of games, and he gets to rest up his limbs, and then he's firing on all cylinders. So as long as he doesn't get suspended in the middle of your fantasy playoffs, I think you'll be okay. I still got 12 picks to go, so let's talk about some of the games. Now, one of the ones I would be interested in on possibly the over, but I still want to wait until I find out the starting, who is starting, who isn't starting. But Friday night, NFL Network, Bears and Chiefs, the over-under is only 32.5. That's pretty low. It's been 35, 36, 37.5 all year long. So that's pretty low. Now, the question be, is anyone playing? Because if nobody's playing, that's why it's that low, and you may be best to stay away from it. Because that's a very low under. Any broken tackles, anything like that, you're screwed. The Jacksonville Jaguars are playing the Falcons on Friday night. Actually, the game I just referenced is on Thursday night, so it will have already happened, so I guess we'll find out. But it's being played tonight, so there's really no point in me giving you insight on that one anyways. That is my bad. The way the screen was loaded, I thought there was just the one Thursday game, but evidently there's 2 Thursday games. There's a Colts-Bengals Prime Video game, and there's an NFL Network game. So, but the Friday night game, Jaguars-Falcons, right now it's looking like you're going to get more backups than anything else. If that changes, then scratch everything what I'm about to tell you. But I like the under in that game. I don't think you're going to get the starting players, at least for the Jacksonville side. And it doesn't sound like the Falcons want to risk injury. I mean, the last thing you want is like Bijan Robinson or Drake London or whoever to get a severe injury and miss the beginning of the season. So there's a very good chance that they don't play. So I like the under. That's 35.5. That's pretty high. Same thing with Bucks Dolphins. Now, once again, check the injury report. I'm going to do that for the Saturday games for our Saturday morning show, but I'm just kind of outlining of what you're looking into here on Friday night. The Saturday games, I'll go over it then. It's my turn once again. And let's see, as far as on the ADPs is concerned, players that are available, there's still, at this point, I've punted the tight ends so far down. I think I'm just going to grab a couple at the end and get some. So I'm going to get some depth. I'm going to grab Chris Godwin. I think he had a hard time finding the end zone last year. I get that, but he's still getting you receptions, he's getting you yards. So I'll be okay with that, especially considering the fact he's my second wide receiver off the bench. So I've got a pretty stout team right now. And then as far as the running backs go, the best one that I see on the board is Tyjae Spears. I still believe in my heart of hearts, and maybe it's because, now take this grain of salt, I'm a Titans fan. I believe he's the much more talented back than the free agent that they brought in of Tony Pollard. People didn't pay attention to it last year, but he is explosive, and he is dangerous. And he could literally be a feature back, almost not the same kind of talent, but the same kind of share scenario of a Jahmyr Gibbs. They're both going to be guys who aren't necessarily bulls. You don't have a David Montgomery on this team, but Pollard is the guy that is more suited to catch passes out of the backfield on third down, which means Tyjae Spears would more likely be in on the first and second downs. And if that's the case, unless you have a third and goal from the 7, Tyjae Spears, I believe, is more likely to be the guy that gets the ball in between the tackles at the goal line. This is going to be a passing team with the Titans. It's not your older brother's Titans. This is going to be a much different offense. But even with that being said, they did run the ball in Cincinnati with Joe Mixon when the opportunity presented itself. There's a third game on the NFL slate on preseason Friday night, 49ers and Raiders. That over-under is 32.5. That tells me they have probably – I know the Raiders most likely are not starting their starters. I don't think the 49ers would either, so I get why that would be. What you may want to do is tease a couple of these games. Maybe you take the Niners and Raiders and tease it to a 38.5, and you get the Falcons and the Jaguars to 41.5. So that's my thoughts on that. We'll do more of the football picks on the Saturday show, but I did want to give you an idea of what is going on there. You got a lot of interesting games in week 1, but the rest of this show we'll do the fantasy football, and then we're going to do the futures. I'm going through all the big futures. I got them all jotted down, so take it for what it's worth. These aren't my locks, but these are the ones I'm interested in, and I'll give you an idea. I jotted all the major players down in the big college conferences and in every single one in the NFL. We're just going to go over them and kind of give you an idea. I still have 7 picks, so we're going to start that now. We'll start off with the college football and the SEC. The University of Tennessee right now, over under 8.5. I like the Vols to get that 9-win plateau. 9 wins for the Vols. I think it's very, very likely the University of Tennessee ends up with 9 wins. If you look at their schedule real quick, and I'm not going to go through every single team's schedule, game by game by game, because at that point I'll be here forever. But on some of the bigger ones, I'll go ahead and hit this up. Tennessee's schedule, I think, lays out. They've got some difficult games, but some of their more difficult games are at home. Florida's at home. Alabama's at home. They do play number 24 NC State, but that is at home. They start off with Chattanooga. See, it is my turn to draft now. Now I can keep getting all this, all the depth that I want. I'm going to go ahead. This is a homer pick just because Jacksonville. Give me Brian Thomas. I like the idea of him being the big dog in that offense. And then it's back to me. I guess I should go ahead and grab a tight end. Let's see what's going on with Noku. Let's see what his injury status is. Didn't practice on Wednesday. Was undisclosed. And they don't have to tell you what the injury is. You know what, Georgia fans? I'll tell you what. I'll take a flyer on Brock Bauer. What the hell? Why not? I'll put him in there. He's definitely going to be the starter. And the question will be, will Gardner Minshew be able to get him the ball? If they use him the way I think he should be used, which is a tight end but lines up closer to like a slot receiver, the sky's the limit for Brock Bauer if you can get him the ball. But that's going to be the big key. And then, of course, once again, Brock Bauer tends to get banged up from time to time. He's not the biggest of tight ends. What's his status right here? That there's an update. His foot's bothering him. And looks like what I'm reading on the screen here is that he'll be held out of the final preseason game and he should be good to go. But when you take a tight end that late, then I think you have to have a second tight end. So you have to make sure you don't get the same bye week. But I've got 3 picks left. I've got to have a tight end. I got to have a kicker and a defense. I don't have a backup quarterback. But I think it's really more important because in this league, so I'm looking at who's left at quarterback. There's a lot of talent out there on the quarterback market. And you could go with the backup quarterback, and maybe I should because of the fact that I've got Richardson, which means that my game plan would be that I would stream when I had to put someone on the injured list because Brock Bauer couldn't play. So I think I may do that. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and take Trevor Lawrence since I do have Williams. His bye week is 12, and Richardson's is 14. So we'll go ahead and take that. And then it goes back to, this will be pretty simple. I'll go to my defense. What's the best defense available? You can't go wrong with the Pittsburgh defense. I was a little tempted to grab Buffalo, because especially with the cold weather up there, and they typically have a good defense. So does Philly. But I think nine times out of 10, Pittsburgh defense will do you all right. For those of y'all who may be new to fantasy football, I know we'll have some in here. In a typical draft, don't listen to what anyone tells you. They're going to screw with you. Pick your kickers and defense at the end of the draft, because you're typically not going to carry more than one defense. At the most 2, depending on how deep the roster is. Usually with our leagues, they're fairly deep rosters, so you may carry 2. But realize there's always some to stream, and you'll be picking a matchup. If one of your better defenses out there and they are on the bye, you just go to the well and say, look, this isn't a great defense, but they're playing the Carolina Panthers this week. So you know what? I'll go ahead and enter whatever team that you believe is going to have a bad defense in there. And as the season goes on, there's always 2 or 3 defenses that surprise in a good way and 2 or 3 that surprise in a bad way. So there you have that. It's the final picks coming up. It'll be my kicker. Who do we have here? One of my favorite things to do is to pick a kicker on a team that I like. And I do like the Titans. I like the Jags, the Falcons. You have it. Who's the best kicker? Well, you know what? I just don't think you can. I'm not a Philadelphia Eagles fan. You know what? Give me Tyler Bass. That dude's solid out of Buffalo. I was going to say take Jake Elliott out of Philadelphia, but they usually have some bad weather in Philly. So does Buffalo, but Bass has done a pretty good job. I know he's blown a couple of field goals that the Bills fans have gotten mad over, but all in all, Tyler Bass is a very good field goal kicker. So there you have that. Draft is complete. I'm going to leave it up on the screen. I'm going to put my team up here on the screen as we continue with these others, because I'm not going to keep flashing around with the different picks. Let me see draft results, standings. So in the standings area, I'm actually projected to win this thing. And I'd say a lot of that had to do with the fact that the others probably, good Lord, one guy's only projected to have 2,025. How's it 2,540? He must have, so the guy at the very bottom, his name's Bill. He must have drafted a lot of teams on the same buy, because that's how the computer figures it. When you get rated at the end of a draft, don't sweat it. A, there's a lot of things that go into play, and B, you can always fix your team. But I've always said this, and I will always stick with it. You can't win your draft, win your league on draft night, but you can damn sure lose it. And when it all comes said and done, remember something about fantasy football. It's supposed to be fun. So when in doubt, pick the player you want to watch, the one you want to pull for. Very good example in our trophy league. We're playing for pride. We've done this for years, and it's a lot of fun. We give each other a hard time. Looking forward to the newcomers that are going to be in there. We've got Envy. We've got Goat. We've got Robert. I think John Johnson. I don't know. I can't remember who's all in it. I know I sent out invitations, and some of them didn't get them in time or whatever. But sorry, but it closed up. But next time, just realize if you want to sign up, you got to do it quickly because these things do load up. And we'll be doing fantasy baseball, and we may even set up, but before the NFL starts, I'm thinking about setting up for the Braves country, set up a fun league to do what's it called, a survivor pool. But the point is, it's supposed to be fun. So when in doubt, don't grab the guy that's just ranked over the ADP. If it's neck and neck, and you're a Seahawks fan, and the guy that's drafted, so it comes down to, do you take DJ Metcalf or do you take another receiver right in that area? Go grab your boy. You're going to enjoy having him, unless you've played in the past and you're like, nah, I'm not drafted that son of a gun. I'll pull for him on Sundays, but he drives me nuts because he's always hurt or underperforms, that kind of crap. But I've always gone with that. That's why if you look at my dynasty baseball team, there are a ton of Atlanta Braves. Always. Because I'm aggressive and I go out and get them, and I always look at it as this. I can find a way to win any fantasy league. When it comes to baseball, I want my Braves. I don't have to have all Braves in every league, but I want some Braves to be able to pull for. It backfired on me in the CBS league I was in this year because Spencer Strider was my first round pick. Well, we saw how that turned out. One of my mid-round picks, Ozzie Albies. But, realize something too. If your team stinks that year offensively, you're going to have a bad fantasy season. And I've had a bad fantasy season in that league. The Dynasty one, I scored the most points somehow. Don't ask me. But I scored the most points even with the terrible offense that I've had in that league. All right. Let's get into the picks. I'm just going to leave this on the screen as we talk. I could, I guess, change it to one of the scoreboards, but I don't realistically see the point in it. You know what? I'll go ahead and put it on. If you're watching, I'll go ahead and put it on the. There's not really a board you could do for anything else, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the NFL Week 1 slate up, and then that way you get an idea of where the season is beginning. But this is what we'll have here. So that's your opening night, Ravens, Chiefs, and then we go down to Packers, Eagles. Who are the Falcons are hosting the Steelers, et cetera, et cetera. We'll leave it on there because I know Goat's a Bills fan, and we got the Titans and Bears there, and Falcons and Steelers. Should be a fun season. All right. Let's go ahead and chop this baby up. There we go. And maybe put one more game on there. There we go. All right. I guess it's a good idea of what the Week 1 slate is. Packers and Eagles, by the way, is I forgot. I keep forgetting about that. Packers and Eagles, they have a Friday night game, September 6th. So weird. They're really making it. Oh, man. It's going to become a nightmare for fantasy football is what it's going to be. But anyway, I digress. All right. Let's get into the college football picks. The first one that I'm telling you I'm liking. I think Tennessee's got a good chance of winning 9 games. They've got to go to Georgia. That's probably a loss. They're at home against Alabama. I think they get them. The other tough game on the road that they have is at Oklahoma, Everything else is at home, and it's very winnable. They got to go to Arkansas. That's never an easy place to win, but come on now. Vanderbilt's a road game. Get out of here. So one of my favorite plays is the University of Tennessee over 8.5, if you can get that somewhere. Alabama, they are 9.5 over under. And I'm telling you right now that I believe they're going to go under. Now, once again, these aren't necessarily my locks, but we're going over them. We'll do more locks on the Saturday show on Braves Country Radio. But you look at the Alabama schedule, and can they get to 4 losses? That's what you're looking at. Can you find a route for them to go 8-4? Or, I'm sorry, 9-3. You need 3 losses to get the under. They play Georgia. It's in Alabama, but they play Georgia. I think Georgia's going to freaking mash them. They're at Wisconsin the week before, or actually 2 weeks before. It's not going to be an easy setting. So you never know what's going to happen there. They're at Tennessee. I believe that's a loss. They're at LSU. That is not going to be easy. They're at Oklahoma. They're at home against Auburn, but Auburn was not a good football team last year and should have won that game. If it wasn't for a Hail Mary 4th and 31 with seconds to go, Alabama would never been able to backdoor their way into the playoffs with a little payola. So give me Alabama in the under. The next one on the docket here, this one is unbelievably low. I mean, unbelievably low. But we're going to talk about the fact that the Florida Gators are 4.5 is their over-under. Now, if you don't look at the schedule, I'm going to be honest with you, go, what the hell, man? They can't find 4 wins? 4 wins? Get out of here. Or 5 wins? But listen to this schedule. They're at home against Miami. That's a critical game. If they don't get that one, then they're at home against number 20, Texas A&M. They're at Tennessee. Home against Georgia, or in Jacksonville against Georgia. At Texas. Home against LSU. At Ole Miss. At Florida State. Those last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that I mentioned, they're all ranked in the top 13 in the country right now. Now, I think they're going to lose every one of those, and probably not. But 1-4, it's very possible. They get Kentucky right before that, by the way. So they do have a week off before the Georgia game, and then the onslaught begins. But they have a week off before they play Georgia. Before that, they have back-to-back weeks of at Tennessee and home against Kentucky, and I think there's a very good chance that they lose at least 1, maybe 2 of those. So how do we get to 5 wins on this season? That's how you have to look at it. You have to look at the reverse angle. They should beat Stanford. Probably beat Central Florida, though they have not been necessarily a pushover. Those 2 games are gimmies, or should be gimmies. The rest of them are not gimmies. I'm staying away from it. If I'm doing it logically, I'm going to tell you take Florida over 4.5. But I don't see how they get to the 5 wins, because they don't have. If this was a schedule of a competently run program, which Billy Ball has not done since he's been there at Florida, I tell you that, first of all, there wouldn't be the belly aching about the schedule. And Florida, though, wouldn't be expected to run the gauntlet. They'd be looking at an 8-4, 9-3 possible season. Talking about if you have a good program. But this program has been a disaster. And though he is recruiting well this year, you got to take that with a grain of salt. You really got to take it with a grain of salt. Because the simple fact of the matter is, this team, if they lose 8, 9, 7, whatever games, those recruits aren't coming. Some of them will, but they'll all bail. It happens every year. It's pie in the sky stuff. Oh, yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, I'll be there. I can't wait to play for it. It's such a pretty campus. Blah, blah, blah. Every team gets this. Oh, they treat me great. It's every team season hears this. Then go out there and lay an egg and see how many of them are still hanging around in December. So I believe Billy Ball will come to a crashing end at the very latest mid-November. But I really expect them to probably hand him his walking papers, honest engine, by November 10th, which is the day after the Texas game, I've been hedging all year long that it's going to be after the Georgia game. I think Georgia's probably going to drag them, and the fans are going to be ticked off, and they're going to want to start their coaching search at the beginning of November. And if they walk into the Georgia game and drop it, and they've already got 5 losses on their slate or 4, and that becomes their 5th, it's over. It is absolutely over. All right, spent too much time on that. Georgia, 10.5. Blind eye, I'm always going to tell you, when it's all said and done, I would get 10.5 is a very high number, but Georgia's a very good football team. They've got the Clemson game as a kickoff. If they slip up on that because it's an early one, that would concern you betting this number. They're at Alabama. That could be a second loss. They're at Texas. That could be a third loss. A possible loss. A third game that could be a loss. Not 3 losses. I don't think there's any way that they lose 3 this year. They're at Ole Miss. That's a concerning game. Tennessee's not going to be an easy one. So they got a handful of games, and the question would be, can they go? What you're asking them to do is go 11-1. And the fact of the matter that it's no longer important to be undefeated, 11-1. They just want to get in the SEC title game and win it and get the bye. I'm staying clear of any team that has 10.5 on the over. But I wouldn't bet against Georgia. That's just that one that I'm just going to say, I'll take a hard pass on that one. I think they're good enough, but it doesn't mean anything. Are they even starting their starters in the – so what this is, these are regular season games too, by the way, y'all, if there's a confusion. Don't count their conference title game as a win or a loss. It's the 12 regular season games. So 11-2 is not going to get you – if they win the SEC title, 11-2, that doesn't get you there. It's the 10-2 get you beat. They got to go 11-1 or undefeated. So think about that, because it's not just a factor of whether the players are good enough or whether they're taking it serious enough. Are they even playing down the stretch? Who plays in the Tennessee game? Who plays in the Ole Miss game if they're sitting there undefeated and they got a couple of scrapes and bruises? They're like, we need to be healthy. We're worried about middle of December, not the middle of November. Football has changed forever. College football will never be the same. You can argue back and forth whether it's good or bad for the sport. But the thing is, the toothpaste is never getting back in the bottle. Too much money at stake, y'all. Too much money at stake. Auburn, 7.5 wins. This is an interesting one. I'm going to start rattling these off really quickly. I don't like taking Auburn on 8 wins when you consider they play Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama. They've got some other games that could be tricky. At Missouri. Missouri's going to be good this year, whether y'all have seen the polls or not, but they are expected to be really good this year, number 11 in the land. Texas A&M, they got a lot of games they could lose. If Freeze turns this around quickly, he can absolutely get to 8 wins, but I'm staying away from it. That's just my initial take on it. LSU, 9.5 wins. I don't like taking that because I think it's too many. I think LSU, I'd be more comfortable with an 8.5 over, but LSU does have some talent coming back. Texas, 10.5. Tell you the same thing I'll tell you that I told you when I said I'm staying away from it because of with Georgia. That's too many wins to bet on. What you're saying is 11-1 or bust. And with Texas, we know they're playing Georgia. It's at home, but they're playing Georgia. And the rest of it looks like this. They've got to play. They do get their old rival Oklahoma on the slate. They're at Texas A&M, a rivalry renewed. That'll be fun, but it won't mean as much. They're at Michigan in September. 11 wins, that's a lot. That's a lot. So I am going to tell you I'm taking the under. That's one of my favorite plays. Oklahoma, 7.5. This is really interesting. 7. You say, Oklahoma, 7. What the hell? 8-4. Oklahoma's got a really tough schedule. As much belly aching as you've heard from the Florida Gator fans, and rightfully so, they got a tough schedule. Listen to Oklahoma's schedule. They got to play Tennessee, Auburn, Texas, Ole Miss, Missouri, Alabama, LSU. Half those are on the road, have them at home. I'm staying away from it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Ole Miss, 9.5. Ole Miss, so they got to get to 10 wins to hit the over. It's a lot of wins. And if you've been paying attention, they're popping up a lot of damn schedules that we're going over. They got to play LSU. They got to play Georgia, Oklahoma. But they got some soft landing spots too. They don't have a real, what I would consider a real bump in the road until October 12th against LSU. They may be top 5 at that point. They've got, I really like the idea of Ole Miss going 10-2, but that is it means that you can lose the Georgia game and you can lose, I guess, LSU. You better win the rest. If I'm going to pick one, I'm going to take Ole Miss to go over. But it's got to be plus odds. Kentucky's over under this year, 6.5. Kentucky's been a well-coached team. They've got a tough schedule. 6.5. Steering clear of that one because if I was going to take it, I'm taking the over. They've got some really winnable games. But I just don't love it per se. Missouri, same thing. Their number's too high, 9.5, 10 wins for Missouri when they just have started to be considered a good program. It only takes 3 losses and that bet is busted. South Carolina, 5.5. I'm staying away from it. I don't think they're a very good football team. They're going to have a hard time getting to 6 wins, but 6 wins is a low bar. Let's go to ACC real quick. We're going to rattle these off and get to the NFL because we're coming short on time. Florida State, 9.5. I like the over. I think they're going to get it, but if you're going to bet on something, honestly, take them to win the ACC. The odds are better. It was plus 280. It was plus 300, plus 280 this morning. Clemson, over 9.5. I don't like it. I bang the under. Notre Dame, 10.5. No way in hell am I betting on them to go 11-1. Notre Dame, they always spit the bet. North Carolina. And look, 10-2 will get them in the playoffs. So 11-1, get out of here. Miami, 9.5. I don't like it. Take the under. North Carolina, 7.5. I'm staying away from that one. Same thing with NC State. They got some tough games. They got a couple out-of-conference clashes. It's too much. Big Ten. Penn State. 10.5. Too high. Take the under. Michigan, 8.5. Seems low. They got a tough schedule. Steering clear. Ohio State, 10.5. That's one of the few teams I'd say, yeah, take them. Because they are, to me, as good as Georgia's been, Georgia didn't spend near the money that Ohio State spent in the transfer portal with the NIL money. He spent, I believe at last count, it was $11.75 million to bring guys in, not counting what they already have. So, but I hate betting on a team that's going to go 11-1 when it no longer. Last year, I'm taking the bet. This year, I don't know if they're going to play all their starters down the stretch. College football has changed forever. You're not going to feel the need to have to win every game. Those days are gone. But what you get on the back end is an exciting postseason. Southern Cal, 7.5, over under. Ugh. They're coming in the Big Ten. They're in a rude awakening. I'd probably take the under, to be honest with you. Oregon, 10.5. They're replacing some guys. 11 wins. That's a lot going into the Big Ten. I would probably take the under. Wisconsin, 6.5. Wisconsin finds a way to go 7-5. They just do. Nebraska, 7.5. That's a little too rich for my blood. I'm hoping Nebraska starts coming back. It's good for college football, but 8 wins, that's a big expectation for a team that really hasn't produced in recent memory. Oklahoma State, Baylor will leave those alone. BYU, 4.5. Give me the over on BYU. They're always underrated. 5 wins is all you need. Come on, let's go. Kansas State, 9.5. That may sound crazy. Kansas State's a very good football team, and in that conference, I think they can get to it. 10-2, I really do. See, this is a conference where you can't rest on your laurels and expect to get 4 teams into the tournament. They're going to feel like they have to win every game. Kansas, 8.5. That might be a tad high. I stay clear of it. Colorado, 5.5. Honest engine. I just think Deion Sanders, and this coming from a Florida State guy, I think Deion Sanders is not a good football coach. And I don't see how he wins 6 games. I just don't. I got to see it to believe it. I'm taking the under. TCU, 7.5. Yeah, I'm steering clear of it. It's too much. Houston, 3.5, by the way. I mean, I feel like you got to throw some pizza money on that. 4 wins? Come on. 4? We'll do best odds to make the college football playoffs on the Saturday show. I'm going to try to wrap this up real quick. The NFL, we're going to do this real quick. All right. The over-under, I'm just going to give you, I'm not going to give you all my reasonings behind the schedule, but I have looked at them. I'm just going to tell you what I think over-under. You're all ready for some rapid fire? Let's get it. We're going to do this in alphabetical order. I think most of these are alphabetical. Here we go. Arizona Cardinals. We're going to take the under 7.5. Buffalo Bills, over 10.5 wins. Chicago Cubs. Chicago Bears, under 8.5 wins. Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati. Assuming Jamar Chase does some things, give me the over. 10.5. If he holds out, holy crap, you're in trouble. Cleveland, over 8.5. I ain't touching it. That's about where they'll be. They'll be 8-9, 9-8. Dallas, over 10.5 wins. So they got to go 11-6. I just think that's a touch too high. They didn't do anything in the offseason. Give me the under. Because you asked me what Dallas is, they're about a 10-7 team. And hell, they may be able to make the playoffs with 9-8. I just think that's a big, big ask, considering they didn't bring in. But they lose their starting running back and bring in 68-year-old Ezekiel Elliott. Oh, that's a hard pass. Denver, 5.5. Over under. Steering clear of it because I got to see what Bo Nix is about. Detroit, over 10.5 wins. I'm taking the under. The reason why here in a second. Houston, over 9.5 wins. Yes. Jacksonville, 8.5 over under. Yeah. Them and Indianapolis, I just don't like it. If you're a fan of one of the teams, just, take the over, right? Have some fun. But I don't like the numbers. I just don't. I just feel like that's going to be a competitive division. Houston's obviously the favorite. But Jacksonville had a terrible season last year. They had an unbelievable late season in 2022. So who are they? I think they're somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to stay away from that. I might throw some pizza money on it, but come on. Chiefs, 11.5 wins to get to 12-5. I have a hard time going under on the Chiefs. Until I'm proved differently, I'm not betting against the Chiefs. Give me the over. Vegas, over under 6.5. So 7-10 or 6-11. Eesh. If Denver's going to be terrible, I'll take Vegas. Chargers, 8.5. I am taking the under all day long. Rams, 8.5. I like the over. I just think McVay finds a way. I think they're a little healthier this year too. So you just need 9 wins. Tampa Bay, 7.5. Give me the Bucks. Minnesota, 7.5. Staying clear of the course. This number's probably been changed. I jotted these down just as the McCarthy injury was coming about. If it's down to 6.5, grab it. Minnesota's not going to be terrible with Darnold. Miami, over 9.5 wins. I think that's a gimme. New England, 4.5. Probably take the under. They're going to be terrible. New Orleans, 7.5. Give me the under. I don't think New Orleans fixed anything. Giants, 6.5. Give me the under. Jets, 9.5. They can't have this bad of luck 2 years in a row, can they? Give me the over, but barely. I think they're a 10-7 team. Philly, 10.5. Have they fixed what was wrong with them? I don't think they have. Give me the under. The winner of that division could be 9-8. Steelers, 8.5. I am not going to bet against Mike Tomlin having a winning season. He doesn't have losing seasons. Give me the over. They've looked terrible in the preseason, but I have a hard time betting against them. San Francisco, 11.5. Probably get there, but that's a lot of wins. And if they're not being challenged, they may put the brakes on. Seattle, 7.5, steering clear. Tennessee, 6.5. Tennessee, 6.5. That's about where I have them. 6 wins, maybe 7. If you're a Titans fan, nothing wrong with putting a little pizza money on that, a little beer money on it. Well, if you're a Tennessee fan, put the pizza money on it. Your beer budget is probably much larger than most people. I know mine is. Spent way too much time in Tennessee. Washington, 6.5. Give me the under. I think the Washington Commanders will command nothing but losses. The Atlanta Falcons, 9.5. If you can still get that number, you should. Give me the Falcons. They are going all in this year. They know the division is there for the taking. I got to believe in them. Carolina, 5.5. Actually, if I was going to take this, I would probably take Carolina in the over. But that's mainly because I'm planning on taking Tampa Bay and Atlanta in the over, and one of these teams has to go over, right? But Carolina, everyone's singing a great song about the leap that Bryce Young's going to make this year. I got to see it to believe it, so I'm just not going to touch it. Baltimore, 10.5. Give me the Ravens over. I love the addition of Derrick Henry. I think that team is going to mash. They're going to eat. They're going to own the clock. You're going to have a hard time moving the ball. And then the Green Bay Packers. This is why I told you I was staying away from Detroit, 10.5 under. The Green Bay Packers are 9.5. 9.5. Give me the over. Assuming health, Packers were possibly the best team in the NFC at the end of the season last year. They had a tough 5 to 7 minutes in that NFC playoff game, the semifinals. What do they call that? The divisional round or whatever it's called nowadays. But they very well could have beaten San Francisco. They just had some huge blunders after really hanging in there. So give me the Green Bay Packers, 9.5. All right, that's going to about do it. And we're having this pretty tight on that 1 hour window that I wanted to do this one on. Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Become a country club member. It's $2.99 a month. I mean, come on. You can't even get a freaking... What the hell can you get for $3? $2.99 a month. Nothing. That's the answer. You can't get anything. But you can get our picks. And you can come in, ask us whatever the hell you want to ask us. We will answer. If not, catch the replay. It'll drop around. We're going 8:30 to 10 live. I flipped the switch, and it should be live about somewhere between 10 and 10:15. Plenty of time to watch it before the noon kickoff. That's why we're doing it at the new time. Y'all have a great day, Country Club, Braves Country, Armchair Quarterback listeners. I know it's all a bunch of different names, but it's all one big tent of we're all family here. We've been doing this as our 11th season. 11th season. Started way back on 2014. August 23rd. And I've had a blast. And I believe one of our original guys will be there Saturday morning. Mr. Shelton. So we'll see you then. Y'all have a great one.